Hey everyone, so in this video we're going to talk about hitting a flat line in your drawing journey, and you must have noticed when you're starting out, especially if you're drawing portraits, you kind of improve really fast in the beginning and you kind of hit a flat line. That was just what happened in my case. And when I mean improve fast, I do mean a couple of months of improvement. I'm not saying like you're gonna improve just right off the bat, but it's kind of like the newbie gains that you sort of witness in the gym where you make muscle really, really fast if you've not trained before, and then you kind of hit a flat line, and it gets progressively difficult to make new muscle. And I think like if you're starting out, well, this video is kind of catered towards people who are into portraiture, but hopefully it helps anyone else out who are trying to draw different things. But the first thing that I would say is like, don't overcomplicate things when you're starting out. Like, a lot of people focus too much on anatomy and like, oh, Loomis method and all that. But I think the focus should not be that. It should be towards simpler things. Like you could just start off with the grid method, or like compartmentalizing things and just looking at shapes and then kind of replicating them on your paper. And just for clarification, you should learn Loomis method. And I'm not saying you shouldn't. Like, it gets to a point where you're looking at someone and then you kind of start to dissect their face, just like in your head. Like, how would I draw that person? But it should not be a priority in the beginning. Like if you start to learn Loomis method, and I know enough people who have quit in their beginning stages, so I know that it should not be like a priority. You should probably start with learning grid method, and it's gonna give you confidence boost as you will be able to make pretty accurate portraits in the beginning, and that's what you need. A little push in the beginning is all that you need, and that's gonna help you to move forward without getting discouraged, as it's really difficult to get proportions right when you're starting out. And also, another thing that I found out to be helpful was like having your reference in the same format as the paper that you're drawing on. So, as you can see in the video, I have said I've applied tapes on my sketchbook, so it's in a square format. And the reference that I was using was also adjusted into a square format, so I can kind of manipulate my brain into seeing shapes, and then I just copy my shapes on the piece of paper. Well, not my shapes, the shapes that I see on the reference, I just copy them on the piece of paper. So it really kind of takes away the pressure of like I need to learn anatomy or I need to learn Loomis method. If you can just like train your mind to see shapes, and shape language is all that you need. Like you should be good at designing shapes in your drawings. Yeah, that's it. And the second thing would be just to choose your references in the right way. So if you're choosing references on the basis of like, oh, that person is pretty and I need to draw that person, well, it could be that, but the references need to have like some hard lightings on their face. So if it's just plain lighting, if the face is just lit up by one flashlight from the front, it's not going to make a pretty drawing, especially, and you're going to have difficulty in drawing that because you're not going to be able to see shapes. So if it's like the portrait that you're seeing now, it's kind of lit from the left side, so you can see a kind of a triangle being formed on the right hand side, and that's what you want to look for when you're just selecting references. And the third thing is kind of tricking your eyes into seeing just the average value shapes. So if you just look at a portrait, especially if you're like painting, there are a lot of hues and there are a lot of different values, and it kind of confuses you. And you don't want that. And there's a filter on Photoshop which kind of narrows it down for you and kind of just reduces the photo that you're seeing into just the average values that it comprises of. And you can kind of do that manually by squinting your eyes, and a lot of painters do that. It kind of removes the pressure of like catching too much details. And trust me, details are not what makes a person look like that particular person. It's not that. And especially like you can spot a friend from really far away, and it's not that you can look at their eyelashes or something. That would be fucking crazy. I don't know if you got Byakugan or something, but it's the shapes that you see, and you're so familiar with seeing those shapes, you can kind of spot them from really far away, and that's what you should focus on when you're drawing, getting your shapes right. A lot of people focus too much on details. It's not the details. And the last thing that I would like to point out is something that is really underestimated by a lot of people, and it's the power of like copying other artists that you admire. And don't just start stealing, okay? You're gonna get your ass sued. But if you're going to steal, you're gonna want to steal from a couple of different artists, so you're no longer a thief. You're kind of taking and drawing inspiration like an artist. I don't exactly remember who it was, but I'm pretty sure I heard in a podcast like an amazing oil painter. Like it was in his daily routine. Like before he was doing any commissions in the evening, he would just like spend the whole morning trying to copy other artists and like the old painters like John Singer Sargent, and he would just spend the entire morning copying those artists, and then he would inculcate that workflow into his own paintings. And trust me, you don't want to underestimate the power of copying other artists. Especially, you're gonna always going to be an amalgam of the people that you admire, the people who are hanging around you. So if you can just copy other people's work, the people that you really admire, that's just great. And I guess that's it. And I will see you next week.